we are not homogenous. You know, we're a heterogeneous, just the L of the LGBT is heterogeneous within itself, and there are all kind of battles and fights.
Welcome to The Glimpse. I'm your host, Hannah Lowe. Joelle Taylor is the author of 4 poetry collections. She won the T.S. Eliot Prize and the Polari Book Prize for Canto and other poems. Her novel, The Night Alphabet, was named both a Spectator and Guardian Book of the Year. She's a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature. Her latest collection is Merivale. Joelle Taylor is our guest today on The Glimpse. Joelle Taylor's poems are fierce and immersive, moving through the charged spaces of memory, desire and queer identity with a raw lyric intensity, shaped as much by performance as by the page. There is a fearless physicality to her work, an attention to the body as a site of pleasure, violence and survival, and a commitment to telling stories that have too often been silenced. Joelle builds whole worlds in her poems, intimate, nocturnal, electric, when tenderness and brutality sit side by side. These are poems that confront and hold, that unsettle and sustain, full of grit, music and hard-won beauty. I'm so glad to have her here on The Glimpse with us. Joelle, welcome.
Hello. It's an absolute thrill to be on The Glimpse. Thanks so much for inviting me, Hannah.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. I was thinking that I've seen you on stage hosting, which I think you're brilliant at. I always know that that's going to be a good gig when you're hosting. But the time before that, I saw you at the T.S. Eliot Awards when we were both shortlisted and you won.
Yeah, that was tense, wasn't it? I have to say that, you know, the T.S. Eliot Prize, obviously with all its kind of glamour and the glamouring and the glimmering and everything and this high prestigious, it's the most brutal slam on the planet. It's a slam.
I'd never thought of it like that, the readings as being the South Bank readings.
Yes, very, very upper middle class slam.
Yeah.
But the feeling of terror sitting at the front row, you know, we were all sitting together in one part, weren't we, next to each other. I think I was like holding Jack Underwood's hand.
Yeah.
And we were both near tears and couching Gonya on the other side. And it brought with it that great unifying thing slam brings, you know, where you're unified in the face of abject terror. But also there is something quite Roman about the whole thing, isn't there? I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I am not going down on the T.S. Eliot Prize. I think it's amazing.
But you're right. It's a bit like we're 10 gladiators about to be shoved into the ring together.
Yeah, 10 effete gladiators about to conquer each other with our metaphor. Metaphor be with you.
Yes, effete and melancholic gladiators. I was at the awards party and it was just like a festival of air kissing. Air kissing, and then people talking to me and then looking over my shoulder to see who else they could be talking to, and then me doing that to people as well.
Absolutely. I very, very nearly went. I wanted to go, but I was just like, you know what's going to happen? I know what will happen because, you know, I don't have an official role. I'll just air kiss everybody, catch lots of diseases, drink everything that goes past me because I'm working class in an environment where I don't really feel I belong. So instead of normal behaviour like having some water, I'll just drink whatever is. And then the next day I wake up, you know, and it's
the anxiety. What did I say?
What did I say? Why did I say?
I've got a pocket full of canapes that I took because they were free.
I've got a can of peas. I don't know. I've agreed to all kinds of... I'm mentoring 42 different people for free. You know, that's...
Exactly. Oh, it's so funny. Someone wrote to me the next day and said, like, it basically described it as a circus. And I thought, yeah, this definitely got the circus
element to it.
The circus vibes. Yeah.
But then that's prize culture, isn't it? I mean, we all know it. My life has been radically altered by winning the prize, you know, in really beautiful and wonderful ways. But then you look at the great body of poets that we've worked with our entire lives. And it's so selective. It's, you know, it's one person, it's 2 people per year, when there's hundreds of books and hundreds of conversations we could be having.
I completely agree with you.
That's why there's so much pressure on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a circus of, as you say, amazing life-changing opportunity, but also sort of exclusion and omission. So, yeah, and I think we all know that, but you know, it's that sort of thing, like I'm quite happy to like critique prizes and prize culture while like desperately hoping to win one at the same time.
This is the exact constant of the poet. Prize culture's terrible, I hope I've won.
Exactly. But I was very pleased you won.
Oh, thank you.
Because your book is so politically important and, you know, brought into the public realm a culture that has been, as you say so articulately, erased, derided, and it's really, really big, important political work. And so I was delighted for you, and I'm going to be delighted to hear you read from that book now. So if you'd like to read your poem, and then we'll have a few questions, bit of conversation.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'm going to read Psalm. And in the logic of the world of the book, Canto and Other Poems, if you can imagine, there are all these vitrines that start popping up all over London, all the old places where I used to hang out as a young dyke, a young LGBT person. Lots of these places have gone. So inside these vitrines are things that I wanted to preserve. And in one, which is an entire snow globe, is an entire dyke dive bar circa 1985, something like that, and it's called the Maryville, and this poem is called Psalm, and it's the moment when you walk in for the first time and you belong somewhere. Psalm. O Maryville, song of loose shirt, you button down boy, you thick rod of irony. O Maryville, you sawn off miniskirt, you tights torn into choir. Oh Maryville, oh swagger, oh keychain and denim. I am plural. Oh Maryville, we dress as our greatest fears, we dress as ourselves. Oh Maryville, the etymology of dyke, so many holes to fill. I knew your mother, saw them lower her body into her body, saw how she became cenotaph, the neighbourhood children left flowers at. Oh Maryville, I remember your sister, how antelope she was, how she froze when she heard the first roar, how she fell in to the O of the roar. Oh Maryville, the antelopes are eating the antelopes. Oh my Maryville, forgive us their trespasses. Let us walk alone at night, and let the night not follow us. Let us drink too much and awaken in each other's mouths. Let us be ugly. Let us unwashed. Let us language. Our mouths are filled with men lying, dancing. Let us pass the half-smoked cigarette. Let us fatten. Let us leave our faces on the back seats of night buses. Let someone take a photograph not of us, but because of us. Let our limbs grow wild, our hair retreat, our hormonal seize. Let our breasts, let them. Let us inherit each other's teeth. Oh, keep us alive this death. Keep us from prayer. Deliver us from ego. For thine are the body, the birthing and the burning forever and ever. Are you a man? Thank you.
Thanks so much, Joelle. So the poem, it's an astounding poem. The title is a psalm, so it's like a song of strong feeling, potentially praise, but it's kind of feeling of an ode in it.
Yes.
And yet, like, the praise is complicated. It's not straightforward. Have I got that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the feeling of belonging is complicated anyway, but walking into one of these spaces, these dyke bars back then, these safe spaces to be dangerous in, is a complicated thing, that we are not homogenous. We're a heterogeneous, just the L of the LGBT is heterogeneous within itself, and there are all kinds of battles and fights. And I talk in the book about two truths can exist in the same place and how necessary it is that they can, that these monoliths become these pillars in the bar that are keeping the roof up. All the argument, is part of what it means to belong. It's that, flurry and scuffle between people. But it's also, Psalm it's a prayer. It's like, leave us alone.
Yeah, let us leave us alone.
For the love of God, leave us alone.
Yeah, I get that.
So the first part is, it's the praise poem part, I suppose, where we're noting everybody in there and the complications, and that the antelopes, the prey is eating the prey,
Yeah, and the antelope is so interesting in your work. I think you described somewhere that hang on, let me find where I've got my little quote. I've written so many questions, can't now find it. Joelle, how did you use the antelope metaphor in the book?
I mean, when you're writing something and you just get an image, and it's quite a complicated image.
Antelopes and lions, right?
Yeah.
That's the dichotomy there.
I mean, so that in itself is very binary. It's very simple. Big bad lion eats the antelope. But what's complicated about it is sometimes, like, the antelopes are the lions, or we're dressing, like the butchers in particular are antelopes dressed as lions. It's how we try to survive. We look like the thing we're most afraid of, talking about the butch identity, that is.
Well, I think there's an idea in the book of, like, you describe one woman as being an antelope who's something like scared of her own roar.
Yeah.
So it's that feeling of being incredibly vulnerable, but then perhaps sort of occupying power.
Yeah.
But the power being not straightforward in any way.
No, exactly. The power is certainly not straightforward. I mean, especially today, but even so, in the times I was talking about, I mean, this seems like a really ridiculous thing now, but I remember chanting, penetration is oppression, which as a straight woman, you might be thrilled to hear that I thought at one point, was it reasonable in any way? So I think I'm trying to conjure into this idea that we are all, we're moving as one. We're moving in murmuration. We're moving the way the antelopes move. The lions are coming. Sometimes we have to dress like them. And sometimes we're running from the lions into the mouth of an antelope.
Yeah, flipping it.
So it's very complicated,
Yeah. Your work really touches me because that whole idea of the sort of revisiting those moments in the 1980s and making clear what that subculture was like with all its activism and protest.
And the butch is a very lonely sort of position for a woman to fulfill. And for me, certainly, I believe, butches are female. That's what makes us butch. It's the way we're looking at female masculinity. And there are many people now who will disagree with me on that, but hopefully we can do so with grace, and so far we have, But it makes you escape the male gaze completely, and that can leave you somewhere, invisible. It's strange. You become like the centre of attention, but entirely invisible. So it's the two things at the same time, which is I think my work really thinks about, or plays into the tension between.
Yeah, I mean, it's very thinking work, and I mean that is a great compliment. Like, there is just so much. Well, obviously there's an incredible amount of research that's gone into this book, but there's also so much deep thinking. And I was watching today a little video on YouTube. I think it was an introduction to a poem you were about to read, and you said something about the dive bars, the dyke bars back then, and the women holding books a bit like this one, and you lifted your own book up. And I thought to myself, that's what this book is sort of consciously doing, is providing an archival space. It's a repository of memory, but it's also like it's a manual and a book of hope. Yeah, I think it's all those things.
Oh, that's lovely. I mean, and I've been really overwhelmed by the response of people for something that was a very personal thing to write. I mean, all of our poetry is very personal, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But it was kind of so niche what I was writing. That was the real shock to me.
Maryville is a safe space. I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
And there's a great line in the poem, just a little tiny line where you say, "Let us language." And language is as a noun, but it's being sort of repurposed as a verb. And I thought that was really interesting, like this idea of let us talk and let us have our vocabulary.
Yeah.
Let us have our glossary like you have at the beginning of the book. So language is really important in that way, isn't it? So our freedoms may be conditional, but we need the language to even begin.
If you think about women's oppression throughout the centuries, and I wanted to know if there was a kind of language that was like Polari.
For women.
Yeah, when I was writing. And of course, lesbians do speak Polari, or parts of it. But the main language of lesbianism for centuries has been silence, because it's very unsafe. Then I found a language from Japan called Nusu, and it was the secret language of women. And what they do, and this is why in the new book, Maryville, I talk about, we're a word we do not know. Nusu was this language where women would write little symbols into their fans. So they would like open up a fan and I guess there'd be something in there like, see you in Maryville, 8 p.m, gorgeous, or whatever. But I'm sure it was a little bit more complicated, but it would indicate where you could meet. Not necessarily as partners, but as lesbians or as women.
Yeah, a way of being safe. And in the poem, you say something about the implication is being away from the gaze of men. Let someone take a photograph, not of us, but because of us. I thought that was so interesting as well, that differentiation, not being the spectacle, but also not attracting violence, derision.
Yeah, more objection than object. That's what we are.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, and it's about taking hold of the gaze. And maybe this is one of the reasons the male gaze is obvious and fascinating and constraining and affects not just our rights, but our ability to succeed, particularly, it's given lesbians this kind of important space in which we can think differently. It's given us the ability to kind of consider a completely female erotic space. What does that look like? What does female eroticism actually look like if there isn't the male gaze in the space, I think it gives the opportunity for something different. I'm just fascinated by that. And also, why don't you want us to have it?
Why don't you want us to have it? It's like occupying a space that I think you say, like, that cisgender men see as being purely their own. And the stuff about the male gaze is so fascinating. I always love that line by John Berger where he says, men act, women appear. And I think, oh my God, that has been my whole life. It's been drilled into me for so long. It actually feels like it's part of my soul. And then I think, well, how do I wash it out? I wanted to ask you a little bit about your research, because you talk about it a bit in the introduction of the book, and I know you've done lots of research for Maryville as well, your new collection, because I'm fascinated by archives, and I've been doing so much like archival work myself around sex work in Jamaica in the 60s and 70s. So obviously you can imagine the kinds of archives that exist in that space. They're authored by the colonials. The sex workers are the spoken about, but not the spoken to. They're not addressed. And I wondered, I know there are archives in terms of the queer community, but what was your experience? And also, I was thinking about, when we think of archives, we think of the physical space, the dusty filing cabinet, the boxes in the corner. But my conception of the archive is much bigger. And I wondered how you feel about archives in general.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I'm very blessed. I'm surrounded by living archives, by community. When I don't know something, I'll be talking about it and someone will say, well, don't you remember Big Sylv when she said... And there is this constant sort of cauldron of stories. It's constant. And some of them really have the feeling of heirlooms. They're handed down, and you can almost talk to any butch, certainly anywhere. We all have this commonality of stories that we tell. But, you asked a really perceptive question about the archives and basically who is telling the story. So I spent a long time in the Bishopsgate archives, which holds the Larkner. It's holds the newspapers, the lesbian and gay newspapers. It holds a lot of trans stuff. And it's got the most extensive, in this country, archive of lesbian stuff. But the only archive material you have around lesbians, being women, is from very aristocratic women. So very, very, very rich or film stars. It's women who had independence and who had money, For example, there's a symbol that if we see you with one, we know you're a lesbian, and that's the carabiner or the keys attached to your trousers. Oh. And the reason that becomes a symbol of lesbianism is we used to wear it to show that we were like these independent, strong, aristocratic women, because we had our own front doors. We had doors we could open. We didn't have to live with a man. We didn't have to live with our parents. We were solid and independent. And these things become really important, of course. When you're looking at archives, even myself in the 80s, I didn't have a camera. I've lost 20, 30, years worth of photographs because nobody working class really had one unless they were going to be a photographer. You know, if they do, you might have done A-level photography at college or whatever, but you didn't have them. They were not ubiquitous. And so they were photographs of us, not from us, you know.
Yeah, I find that so fascinating. I mean, first of all, I find the whole thing about the keys so fascinating, because it's like, oh, keys, homeowner. You know, it's got that
Exactly.
But it's different from that. It's about this, independence, you know.
Independence, which becomes a really strong symbol. When Conto, you know, there's one poem in Conto where I talk about women coming back from offices in their twin set and pearls, getting off the bus, running into the Maryville, into the toilets, and then all coming out in a kind of suits and little ties. The notion of silence and being hidden and being undercover, that's our language. That's really what we're dealing with.
Yeah. And the whole thing about social class, I read somewhere that, you know, you said that butch is largely a kind of working class identity. I was fascinated by that. Could you say anything more about it?
I think what I'm talking about is, I mean, obviously you can be butch and very upper middle class, but the kind of, this is the sort of butch working class subculture which propelled a kind of movement. We were the ones gathering at the docks with the gay men, you know, and the sex workers, etc. We were in that kind of environment. So that's what I really mean. When I talk to we all acknowledge among us this is a working class thing. So even if you were very posh, you might be butch, but you're not necessarily a part of that identity.
Yeah, sort of the foundation of that identity. Yeah, it's fascinating, and it feels like, I mean, it's like another strand to follow, but you're right, the book in some ways, your books particularly, because of the performance aspect of them, and I'd love to talk more about that, but I think I haven't probably got time, is that they're really just the catalyst, aren't they, to a bigger conversation, a bigger project.
That's what I'm hoping. I mean, and this Maryville book tour is the most ridiculous I've been so far. Neither Conto or Maryville were written for the body. They were written for the page. And then I had to find a way of changing it slightly and trying a way of embodying it. It's kind of like the poems are cinematic trailers. Come and see the big show. I managed to get this archive of living faces. All these dykes from around the world responded to a call on social media and just sent me a picture of themselves looking into the camera, straight-faced.
That must feel like such an amazing privilege, actually, to have. To have that.
It's really hard not to cry. Particularly the ones I really love are, you know, say a dyke in Australia who used to live in London sees my post and sends a picture of when she first met me at like 23 years old, and then a picture now, so 30, 40 years later, and you know, you see how time plays with a face. I find it so moving and beautiful, and how their eyes are full of such, you know.
Yeah, and just the idea of still here, you know, still going. I love that. I would love to come and see the show. And I love the idea of you getting more ridiculous as you get older. That seems like a good place to take a break. So please join us after the break. I'll be talking to Joelle Taylor.
We hope you're enjoying this season of The Glimpse. It's just one small part of the Adrian Brinkerhoff Poetry Foundation.
We're the founders, Peter
and Kathy Halstead. Our goal is to make great poetry more accessible to everyone, and we do that in a variety of ways, through partnerships, our film series, this podcast, and our website, brinkerhoffpoetry.org.
We hope these works will lure you into a parallel universe, the way a Mobius strip brings you into another dimension without leaving the page you're on.
Thank you so much for listening.
Welcome back to The Glimpse. I'm your host, Hannah Lowe, and I'm joined today by my guest, Joelle Taylor. And now Joelle is going to read and then talk about the poem that inspires her and that she's chosen for this episode.
This is from Summer Somewhere by Danez Smith. Somewhere, a sun. Below, boys brown as rye play the dozens and ball, jump in the air and stay there. Boys become new moons, gum dark on all sides, beg, bruise, blues, water to fly, at least tide, at least spit back a father or two. I won't get started. History is what it is. It knows what it did. Bad dog, bad blood, bad day to be a boy, colour of a July well spent. But here, not earth, not heaven. Boys can't recall their white shirt turned a ruby gown. Here, there is no language for officer or law, no colour to call white. If snow fell, it'd fall black. Please, don't call us dead. Call us alive, someplace better. We say our own names when we pray. We go out for sweets and come back.
Thank you. So this is like the beginning of the sequence. It's a longer poem, Summer Somewhere, but this bit alone is so powerful. Can you tell us, what is it about this sequence that inspires you?
I remember the first time I read it, and I was on a train coming back from something like Verve Festival years ago. It feels like a decade ago, with Anthony Naxaguru and Raymond Antrobus, and this book, Don't Call Us Dead, had just come out, and they were all passing it around, and it came to me, and it was like an entirely new world open up for me, this cinema of poetry, this extraordinary, vibrant, imagistic work that I could feel. I could feel its muscularity too, as well. I can feel like it's got a really strong pulse. The whole sequence taken as a whole, and I really advise you to read a copy online or get a copy. It takes us through this heartbreaking, what are the words to describe it? It's entirely overwhelming piece of work to discuss the state-endorsed murder of black boys in America since time began. And Danez Smith is themselves a non-binary, black, HIV positive, gay American, and they talk throughout their entire body of work about that experience. But this one poem in particular in the book, Don't Call Us Dead, it leads us into the whole work. It leads us into this shame, this stain upon a nation, the fear. I mean, they've got lines throughout the whole piece like, do you know what it's like to live in a place that loves you back? These very simple statements. And then having read it, I wanted to know a little bit more about Danez Smith, and so I went online and I found a video of them doing this extraordinary thing that really did change my life and really did inspire the way I approached Conto, which is they took that piece of work, that very long, and reduced it to a 3-minute slam poem. Now, it could be that the slam poem came first, and then it was stretched out to become this long sequence of cantos, essentially. It could be that. But either way, suddenly I understood that one piece of work could be embodied and could also just be found in a book. It could stretch out across a page in the same way that a performer is able to, stretch out across a stage, is able to fill that air with movement. So, yeah, that's why I love the poem. I love the poem because it's both things in the same moment.
That's so interesting. It wasn't what I was expecting you to say in terms of influence, but let's just linger there for a bit in terms of, because had you been feeling prior to that the page was a potentially limited space?
I think, I grew up through the spoken word. It's a very working class route into poetry, and I always read poetry, don't get me wrong, but I thought my words weren't for that necessarily.
Yeah.
It took really the foundation of Burning Eye Books by Clive Burney, which focused on just publishing spoken word artists, people who were like getting a lot of audience to their work. And so it was really a kind of business opportunity. You published your spoken word poetry and then people bought your book and it was life-changing. But every single one of us who back then started to do that, started to fall in love with the page and to wonder, to understand that the work didn't quite fit. Poetry's like water. It's got to become the shape of the vessel that holds it. So over time, for me, I started to see the poetry stretch out to the page a bit more, become more interested in it. But then I also wanted to take that and embody it. So it's a kind of high lit. It's not spoken word anymore. Just because something's powerful, you know, it doesn't mean to say that it's didactic in any way.
I find this so fascinating that when I started writing poetry, I wasn't even aware of the spoken word scene. So I was just churning out my grief-filled poems in my bedroom of my shared house in Brixton.
And you could have been getting drunk with us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sure that the spoken word poets are having a better time, certainly in terms of community. And I think, yeah, the page poets should be looking towards the spoken word poets. But that dichotomy between them, I think, is also, certainly I've heard it articulated to me about class, possibly about race.
It's 100% about class and race.
Yeah.
100% and always has been.
And that's a big problem.
And that's why, you know, like, people felt very necessary when I won the Elliot Prize. I mean, to be honest, I was overwhelmed with good wishes. But several people did point out that I was a good performer. There was a little addendum. And it's like, mate, I'm not sure I won for a performance.
You didn't.
But, you know, and that's class as well. People are trying to figure out reasons all the time why something's popular with lots of people.
I definitely think so. I know when I first started reading poetry in public, I would shake so much, you know, I would move across the stage. Like where I started wouldn't be where I began. And it's taken years for me. So there's always something I think can be learnt about performance. But to me, that division, especially on the bricks on which it's built of class and race, needs to be collapsed, like totally. But in this poem itself, like that, just the idea, I mean, that's what strikes me with this poem, of the alternate space, the different heaven. It's not heaven. And the boys both knowing and not knowing where they are. There's a sort of forgetting what's happened to them. But when they ask, they're told, you know, don't ask, but you're gone, basically. You're gone from that world. And what I love in this poem is when Danez writes, history is what it is. It knows what it did. Yeah. Bad dog. It's so simple. Yeah,
so brilliant. And that's coming from slam poetry.
Right.
A line like that. We have, you know, like boom lines. I don't know what else to call them. I've always taught it as a boom line. You know, history is what it is. It knows what it did. That is the bits you take away from you from a spoken word gig, these powerful kind of almost slogans. Not really, but, you know.
Yeah, they have the quality of epigrams. They're epigrammatical, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, they sound like sayings and they could become sayings.
Precisely that. Yeah.
Yeah. And also there's a whole sort of alliterative function, bad dog, bad blood, bad day to be a boy. It's that rhythmic thing that carries into the next line as well.
Boom, boom, something coming closer. Yeah. Yeah. There's so much threat in this poem.
Oh, God, yeah.
And so much beauty.
Yeah, so much beauty. And also sort of he's doing that thing with language where he's, I guess, like beautifying, but it's not in any way simple. The violence. So when he talks about boys can't recall their white shirt turned a ruby gown, of course he's talking about the violence done to the black body, but it becomes something else in that language.
The white. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. I mean, for me, it's, like I said, it's the cinema of it. The line, if snow fell, it would fall black. You know, just that image that they give you immediately, this beautiful clip of, you know, of a moment, for me is where poetry, it's the heart of poetry.
Yeah, it's the imaginative space. It reminds me very much of what you said in the first half about imagining a space which was not influenced or, I was about to say polluted, by men.
By men.
By straight men, or by patriarchy. Here he's imagining a world where black and white don't carry the linguistic connotations, really problematic ones, and actually Snow's black and it's all good, or it's just neutral.
Yeah, it's our world.
Yeah.
It's our world for the first time. Here is a place where we belong.
Yeah.
And you know, it says right at the end of the set of cantos, you prayed for peace, and here we are.
Yeah.
All summer. I love the music of the whole set as well. You know, it goes through movements, and I think the very best spoken word and the very best poetry does a very similar thing in that it almost like shoals, like fish. It's got this sense of movement going through it like a symphony, you know, and each of the little cantos is a moment in that movement.
Yeah, and so they're all different as well, and some of them are just so beautiful. Joelle, the last question I've got for you, I think I kind of got a sense of what you're up to, but you are involved in this like major, ridiculous production of Maryville. Anything else for you going on in 2026?
So doing this big old tour, this live tour, and right at the moment I'm finishing the first draft of an opera that I've been working on with the Royal Opera House, and it's not exactly been commissioned yet, but I've been flown out to Berlin to work on it with the composers, who are very famous, and we'll see if it leads to anything. So that's a major thing.
Oh, I absolutely love that.
And working on the film, writing the film of Maryville, see if anything really develops from that as well. And then just trying to write a new book. I'm thinking about going back to a short story.
So moving across the genres. I love all of that is happening for you. I love the idea of the opera. When you said it hasn't exactly been commissioned, I thought, what if you just turned up at the Royal Opera
exactly.
House? Like, I've got an opera, put it on.
Come on.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, so yeah, we've got a bit of research and development money, but now we've got to see if we can get it to the next stage, and hopefully we can.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. Well, I wish you all the best for the year and the future.
Thanks, mate. You too.
Thanks so much for joining me today on The Glimpse.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Hannah Lowe. Joelle's poem Psalm is from Conto and Other Poems, published by the Westbourne Press in 2021 and aired with their permission. Summer Somewhere by Danez Smith is from Don't Call Us Dead, published in 2017 by Grey Wolf Press and used with their permission. Coming up next week, Mimi Calvati delves into the first villanelle she ever wrote and its relationship to the Dylan Thomas poem Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. Make sure to subscribe to The Glimpse wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find episodes on our website, brinkerhoffpoetry.org/podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop us an email at theglimpsepoetrypodcast@gmail.com. The Glimpse is a production of the Adrian Brinkerhoff Poetry Foundation. I'm your host, Hannah Lowe. Our senior producer is Jennifer Wolfe. Kat Yor is our technical director and mixing engineer. Editorial director Amanda Glassman is our curator and production coordinator. Amy Holmes is the Foundation's executive director, and our co-founders are Kathy and Peter Halstead. Thanks for listening.